Roll call, new voice.
Roll call, day 24, Monday, February 13th. Anderson? Here. Baldwin? Barlow? Whiteman? Here. Boner? Here. Bouchard? Brennan? Here. Case? Present. Cooper? Here. Dockstetter? Here. Ellis? Present. French? Here. Murphy? Here. Giroux? Here. Hicks? Here. Hutchings? Here. Hyde? Here. Jones? Here. Kinski? Here. Cold? Present. Landon? Here. Larson? Here. McCune? Here. Nethercutt? Here. Pappas? Here. Rothfuss? Here. Salazar? Here. Schuler? Here. Scott? Here. Steinmetz? Here. Bouchard? Here. Baldwin was considered excused. Hicks excused him. President Driscoll?
Here.
Roll call, 30 present, or 31, 30 present, 1 excused.
Thank you. Prayer by Father Joseph R. Joseph Collins, Holy Apostles Orthodox Church, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Welcome.
Thank you, Speaker. Let us pray to the Lord. Lord, have mercy. Lord Almighty, all merciful, we bow our heads in thanksgiving for the wealth of blessings seen and unseen that you give us, the people of Wyoming, in both times of abundance and in times of need, through times of war and of peace. Humbly we beseech you, Lord, to remember in kindness all of our fellow Wyomingites and fellow Americans who in all times have offered and continue to offer their lives in defense of their families, their neighbors, this country, and the sacred precepts of liberty and justice upon which our country is founded. We beseech you, Lord, to bless the work of these senators and all of the delegates of this legislature who have come together to carry forward the work of our democratic republic and its institutions. Remember now your servants, Governor Gordon, the speakers of both houses, those present and those absent with good cause, the staff that makes this possible, and also the people of Wyoming. Give at all times to our senators and to our other legislators wisdom from above, a dedication to your justice and righteousness, a clear knowledge of the truth and the willingness to stand by it, a willingness to listen, the willingness to do that which is good and right, rather than that which is easy or profitable to self. And above all, give to them love, love for our state, our nation and its people, both friend and foe, in order that we might enjoy enduring freedom and the grace that only comes through doing that which is good. Guide them to fulfill the duties of their offices, always in a way pleasing to you, for the good of our nation, for the peace and happiness of the world, for the glory of your holy name. For yours alone is the dominion, the power, and the glory, that of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Senator Scott, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senator Ellis, I don't have a screen to turn on, but.
Okay, dear senators, may I have privilege of the floor?
Granted.
Senators, this morning in the gallery, you're going to see the 5th grade students of Pioneer Park. They're at the House debate right now, but let's start our morning off by welcoming them to the Senate.
Senator Nethercott, granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you may know, this past weekend, a very, very special senator had a milestone birthday this past weekend. Milestone. And I think we all need to celebrate with a gift bag and singing happy birthday as well. So, Senator Cooper, if you'd please stand, and a happy birthday to you.
Yeah!
To you.
Happy birthday to
You. Happy birthday, Senator Cooper. Happy birthday to you. Mr. President.
Obviously, what goes around
Majority Floor
comes
Leader
around.
Hicks.
Power Ranger tattoos. Bubbles. Imagine that. Ooh, candy. More candy. Okay, cash, let's put those in there. A night vision dinosaur. Cool. A coloring book, imagine that. How did I get a toys? Paint by numbers. More candy. Beef jerky. Wow, I'm impressed. Dinosaur bubblegum. What's this dinosaur thing? Am I picking up on something here? Okay. That's all pretty good stuff. I want to be a princess slashed out dinosaur. That's pretty special.
All right, Senator Cooper. Senator Nethercott. Senator Nethercott, you're tasked with making sure those tattoos get applied correctly.
With everybody's permission, rather than distribute all these, I think I'll reserve one bag over here. And the rest of these, I'll just distribute to that group on the way out. How's that sound?
Perfect. Sounds great. Happy birthday.
All right.
Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, we have another birthday boy with us here today, and if you would help join me in singing happy birthday to our past president, your Minerals Committee Chairman, and my friend, Senator Dan Dockstader.
Here, here.
To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dan. Happy birthday to you.
65.
Just like to
President
say how
Dockstader.
I was inspired by our previous birthday, if I could use proper name, Senator Cooper. You know, we celebrated his 70th, and I was driving home thinking about that and thinking that he's just saying, I'm never going to stop contributing, and he's just going to be a part of Wyoming and bringing that level-headed balance that he does to the debate, and appreciate him and all that he does. Thank you.
Here. Reading, correction, and approval of journals.
Mr. President, your journal committee reports that the Journal of February 9, 2023 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Senator Larson, Chairman.
You've heard the report. Are there any objections? Being none, reports adopted. Another great day, Senator Larson. You're 100% doing well. Thank you. No nurse of the day. Doctor of the day is Chris Sherwin, PA-C. Come on in. Welcome. Thank you so much for your time. We very much appreciate having you here. So, today in Wyoming history, I didn't really like the one they gave me, so I'm going to read you a couple others. I'm a little on the history nut side. So, in 1901, Stinking Water River was renamed the Shoshone River. So that's okay. But what happened on this date, Senator Barlow? Do you know what actually happened on this day in 1911? On this date in 1911, Campbell County was formed. This is when Campbell County came into the state of Wyoming. And now we have a question for the majority floor leader. 1917, legislature appropriated $750 to move Jim Baker's cabin from Carbon County to Cheyenne. Do you know where that cabin sits today?
Savory, Wyoming.
Very good. You win the award. Senator Cooper, could you give him a piece of candy, please? So, not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path. So, messages from the House.
From the House of Representatives, February 10, 2023, message number 304. Mr. President, the House did concur on Senate amendments to the following bills by the votes indicated. House Bill number 24, State Investments, Compensation, and Relocation Amendments, ayes 61, excused 1. Message number 305, House Bill number 69, Coal-Fired Facility Closures, Litigation Funding Amendments, ayes 56, noes 5, excused 1. Message number 302, Mr. President, the House failed to concur on Senate amendments to House Bill 41, Lightweight Trailers Permanent Registration. Ayes 2, noes 59, excused 1. Message number 303, Mr. President, the House appointed House conferees to meet with a Light Committee number 1 from the Senate on amendments to House Bill 41. House conferees are Representative Brown, Chairman, Representative Berger, and Representative Tarver. February 9, 2023, message number 301. Mr. President, the House adopted the Committee of the Whole report failing Senate File 39, Board of Equalization, Questions Before the Board. Ayes 19, noes 43. The bill has been indefinitely postponed. Signed, Katie Talbot, House Chief Clerk.
Concurrences. I'm in trouble here. I'm skipping over things. Way to go. So we have today a new page, Ava Sutton, who is a senior at East High School. She is also a member of Girls State. If you'll come up here and I am not going to pin you, so I'm just going to put my hand in the wrong place. So we're going to do that, and we welcome to the Senate.
Yeah, thank you.
Get your speech ready. So are you here for a week or 2?
I'm here for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to get your speech ready.
Whew, a lot of pressure.
Are we ready to go? Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're on a roll. We have the best pages ever. So,
Thank you so much.
very good. Concurrence reports. Senator Scott. Oh, no, Case, I'm sorry. I went to the wrong corner. Scott's got one too. Case. Are you ready on message number 298, requesting concurrence on Senate File 13? I will have that read in.
I am, Mr. President.
Message number 298, referencing Senate File 13, Bar and Grill Liquor License Phase Out.
Senator Scott, Case.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would move the concurrence request on message number 298 to Senate File 13, Bar and Grill Liquor License Phase Out. What our good friends down the hall did was to actually remove the phase out. So if you recall, this bill was a bill that expanded the number of bar and grill liquor licenses over time, and eventually, in 10 years, removed the limit entirely on the number of bar and grill liquor licenses. The bill was massaged a bit in your Senate committee, Mr. President, because we had another bill that related to having an entertainment liquor license. So we took the bar and grill license and put the entertainment purpose in there, but we left the schedule with the phase out in 2033. Our friends down the hall loved what we did with the entertainment, put it in there. They're all happy. They like the schedule, but they don't like that it's open-ended. And so after 10 years, there's no repealer. So we would still have the restrictions on bar and grill licenses, but they'd be the restrictions that exist in the progression. And so the way I look at this, Mr. President, we've got 10 years to think about this, 10 years to make it work. Really, the substance of the bill is intact. It's a win for everybody. And Mr. President, I do have to tell you that I do have a conflict on the bill because I do own a liquor license. But I would encourage my colleagues to vote aye. And I think together we've done some good work here and eliminated an extraneous bill and really tightened it up. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Senator Anderson, do you have a question or are you just coming in? Okay. Very good. Chief Clerk, call the roll. On concurrence on Senate File 13, Message 298, your chairman has asked you to vote aye.
Message number 298, concurrence on Senate File 13, roll call. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case conflict?
Correct.
Conflict? Cooper? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Ellis? No. French? Aye. Murphy? Aye. Baru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? No. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kinski? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? No. McEwen? Conflict? Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. President Driscoll?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 13 concurrence, 25 aye, 4 no, 2 conflict.
Did you conflict me after I goofed up?
No.
I voted aye and I should have been a conflict. Am I too late? Now it's closed?
It's closed.
Okay. All right, so everybody knows I failed to declare conflict and I voted aye for the record. Senator Rothfuss.
Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for immediate reconsideration of the last vote.
Very good, a savior move, thank you.
There's your vote.
That objection, so folks,
Yep, we'll have to vote.
we're voting on reconsideration. I'm being saved here. So, question being called. Chief Clerk will call the roll. How to do things the right way, the wrong way.
For reconsideration, Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner? No. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French? Aye. Furphy? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kinsky? Aye. Kolb? No. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Driscoll?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote? Kolb, no to aye. Closing. Vote closed. For reconsideration, 30 aye, 1 no.
Okay, we're back on the conference report, Senate File 13, Message 298. Back to the vote. Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Reconsideration, excuse me, concurrence vote, Senate File 13. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Conflict. Cooper? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Ellis? No. French? Aye. Furphy? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? No. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kinsky? Aye. Kolb? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? No. McEwen? Conflict. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. President Driscoll?
Conflict.
Conflict. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 13, concurrence, 24 aye, 4 no, 3 conflict.
By your vote, you have conferred on Senate File 13. Thank you for saving me, Senator Rothfuss. So we have got another one. There's the one I was looking for. Senator Scott, you have a concurrence report. So, where'd my- Senator Scott, if you're ready on message number 299, requesting concurrence on Senate File 48, I will have that read in.
Message number 299, referencing Senate File 48, Education, Suspension, and Expulsion Model Policies.
Senator Scott.
Mr. President, I move we do concur in the House amendments to Senate File 48. And let me explain for the newer members, that's the standard motion we always make to have a positive motion. And then the question is, does the sponsor ask you to vote aye or vote nay? I'm going to violate that a bit, Mr. President, by asking you to use your judgment. What happened with the Senate File 48 is a bill to get the State Department of Education to create model policies on suspension and expulsion that the districts can copy if they want to, and we suspect a number of the smaller districts, and probably some of the bigger ones, will do just that. What happened in the House was they amended in the text of House Bill 177, which is expulsion for possession of a deadly weapon and goes into exactly how you do that and what happens. And there's two problems with it, Mr. President. One, it is a rather different bill than what we passed, and we've never had a chance to look at the substance of that. I can't tell you whether the substance of the bill is good or bad, but they put it in here because it died in committee of the whole in the House. It's one of the numerous ones that they talked to death and never got to. And it does stretch the title a bit. Probably not so much you'd have in court trouble, not that anybody would ever bring a case over this, I don't think, but certainly well beyond what we normally tolerate here in the legislature, Mr. President. And so I have the concern it's an issue we really haven't considered. Second, Mr. President, I suspect that if we allow this amendment of a failed bill, we will see others. And we'll have a number of these. So you're setting a precedent here. So, Mr. President, with that, I will tell you, I'm going to vote no, but I'm going to ask you to use your judgment. Do you want to see failed House bills coming through this way, or do you not? And do you, secondarily, do you approve the substance of what's here? So, Mr. President, that's the decision that's before us. As I said, I'm going to vote no on it.
For discussion, Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against concurrence, I think I might even have been a co-sponsor on that failed bill, but that is a wildly unacceptable practice. I'll be a no throughout until that comes off. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? Question being called. Chief Clerk will call the roll. Motion is the Senate do confer on Senate File 48, Message 299. The chairman has left it to your knowledge. Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Concurrence vote, Senate File 48. Anderson? No. Baldwin? No. Barlow? No. Beitman? No. Boner? No. Bouchard? No. Brennan? No. Case? No. Cooper? No. Dockstetter? No. Ellis? No. French? No. Furphy? No. Guru? No. Hicks? No. Hutchings? No. Ide? No. Jones? No. Kinsky? No. Cole? No. Landon? No. Larson? No. McCune? No. Nethercott? No. Pappas? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? No. Schuler? No. Scott? No. Steinmetz? No. President Driscoll?
No.
No. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 48, 31 no.
Unanimous message. By your vote, you have failed to confer on Senate File 48. Conference committee will be Scott, Chairman, Rothfuss, and Ellis. We have 78 here. 78 here, I don't see it. Okay, and I just appoint a committee on that, right, is all. I'll appoint a conference committee on House Bill, now this is 41. Should have 78 somewhere, it shows. Do we have? So we'll appoint a conference committee on House Bill 41, which is lightweight trailers, permanent registration. Hicks, chairman, Jones, and French. Introduction, reading, and reference of bills. This is the last of the House files other than the bottom of the drawer, folks. House Bill 4, first reading of the bill.
House Bill 4 engrossed Medicaid 12-month postpartum coverage, sponsored by the Labor Committee. Passed the House, ayes 34, noes 28.
House Bill 4 is referred to, Ellen, I messed that up, to Committee number 10, Labor. House Bill 98, first reading of the House bill.
House Bill 98 engrossed property tax homeowners exemption, sponsored by the Revenue Committee. Passed the House, ayes 46, noes 15, excused 1.
House Bill 98 is referred to Committee number 3, Revenue. House Bill 174, first reading of the House file.
House Bill 174, homestead exemption amendments, sponsored by Representative Andrew. Passed the House, ayes 49, noes 13.
House Bill 174 is referred to Committee number 3, Revenue. House Bill 31, first reading of the House file.
House Bill 31, BOCES as local education agencies, sponsored by the Education Committee. Passed the House, ayes 46, noes 14, excused 2.
House Bill 31 is referred to Committee number 4, Education. House Bill 33, first reading of the House bill.
House Bill 33 engrossed school finance career technical education grants, sponsored by the Education Committee. Passed the House, ayes 37, noes 24, excused 1.
House Bill 33 is referred to Committee number 4, Education. House Bill 34, first reading of the House bill.
House Bill 34 engrossed school finance mental health services, sponsored by the Education Committee. Passed the House, ayes 35, noes 26, excused 1.
House Bill 34 is referred to Committee number 4, Education. House Bill 144, first reading of the House bill.
House Bill 144 engrossed senior citizen district programs and services, sponsored by Representative Strzok. Passed the House, ayes 56, noes 3, excused 3.
House Bill 144 is referred to Committee number 7, Corporations. House Bill 148, first reading of the House bill.
House Bill 148, airport liquor licenses amendment, sponsored by Representative Walters. Passed the House, ayes 59, noes 2, excused 1.
House Bill 148 is referred to Committee number 7, Corporations. House Bill 284, first reading of the House file.
House Bill 284, collection agency regulation, debt buyers, sponsored by Representative Walters. Passed the House, ayes 39, noes 23.
House Bill 284 is referred to Committee number 7, Corporations. House Bill 56, first reading of the House file.
House Bill 56, Purple Star Schools, sponsored by Representative Brown, an act relating to education. Passed the House, ayes 61, excused 1.
House Bill 56, referred to Committee number 8, Transportation. House Bill 59, first reading of the House file.
House Bill 59 engrossed Wyoming National Guard tuition benefits, sponsored by the Transportation Committee. Passed the House, ayes 38, noes 24.
House Bill 59 is referred to Committee number 8, Transportation. House Bill 66, first reading of the House file.
House Bill 67, special license plate decals, women's veterans, sponsored by Representative Stivar. Passed the House, ayes 61, excused 1.
House Bill 67 is referred to Committee number 8, Transportation. House Bill 199, first reading of the House bill.
House Bill 199 engrossed license plate decal, breast cancer awareness, sponsored by Representative Conrad. Passed the House, ayes 47, noes 15.
House Bill 199 is referred to committee number 8, Transportation. House Bill 62, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 62, Open Banking, sponsored by the Minerals Committee. Passed the House, ayes 46, noes 15, excused 1.
House Bill 62 is referred to committee number 9, Minerals. Senator Steinmetz?
Thank
I
you.
remembered this time. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. President. I would request that House Bill 200, non-resident hunting licenses application fees, be sent from the Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources Committee number 5 to Committee number 6, Travel, Recreation and Wildlife.
Without objection, so referred. Thank you. Senator Biden.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 229 has an appropriation, and I would ask that it would be re-referred from revenue to appropriations, please.
Without objection, so ordered. Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have privilege of the floor?
Granted.
Good morning, Senators. We have another group of fifth grade students from Pioneer Park Elementary in the gallery this morning. They're joined by their teacher, Ms. Kessler. Let's welcome them to the Senate. Good morning, everybody.
Here, here. Reports from standing committees.
February 13, 2023, Mr. President, Committee number 4, Education, to whom is referred House Bill 175 engrossed, excused absent state fair events. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Beitman, Brennan, Rothfuss, Scott, and Steinmetz. Senator Scott, Chairman.
Thank you. Bills on second reading. That's an old one, I think. House Bill 5, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 5, Voter Registry List, Voter ID, and Absentee Ballots.
House Bill 5 having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 7, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 7, Underage Marriage Amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I
Senator
respectfully ask that we lay this bill back, House Bill 7, for one day.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, sir.
House Bill 15, second reading of the House file.
House Bill 15, County Authority to Dissolve Museum Boards, clarification.
House Bill 15 having been read 2 separate times. Senator Landon, excuse me.
Mr. President, my apologies for jumping up late. This was a bill that received a little bit of discussion last Thursday, and I wanted to follow up with some information I promised. Mr. President, that particular bill is a technical correction to a bill that passed in 2022 in the Wyoming Senate. That bill, which was sponsored by the Judiciary Committee, authorized our commissioners out there to dissolve museum boards, among others. That was amended out of the bill in 2022, but the amendment did not strike or delete a reference to a couple of statutes, 1810-103, 1803-525. This bill was just a technical correction to strike that inconsistent reference and accurately reflect the will of the legislature in 2022. So I hope that helps on the bill. We can certainly visit on third reading.
Thank you, Senator Landon. Further comments? Seeing none. House Bill 15 having been heard 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be heard a third time? Hearing no objection, is so ordered. House Bill 57, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 57, Armed Forces Amendments.
House Bill 57 has been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, is so ordered. House Bill 79, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 79, voter ID concealed carry permit.
House Bill, Senator, Majority Floor Leader Hicks.
Absent any objections, I would move to have, request to have House Bill, what's the number here?
79.
79 laid back for one day, please.
Without objection, so ordered. House Bill 86, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 86, disclosure of private cryptographic keys.
House Bill 86 having been read two separate times. Question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, is so ordered. House Bill 93, second reading of the House file.
House Bill 93, omnibus water bill construction.
There is an amendment. We have the amendment read in, please.
House Bill 93, second reading amendment number 1 to engrossed copy, page 53, after line 2 in.
Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I move the amendment, I did want to get back to the body because I had some information sent to your email on the cloud seeding. We had some questions about that the other day. Basically, the cloud seeding project started in the 2000s, and we've seen some research on that indicates it's effective. But in 2022, the Wyoming legislature approved a study to focus on providing a more robust assessment of cloud seeding and the cost effectiveness of it. So I hope you all got a chance to look at that information. I think we'll have an amendment on that later. With that, Mr. President, I would move first reading amendment number 2 to Senate or House Bill 93
Number 1.
and ask for, what's that?
Amendment number 1.
Oh, I thought we had it read in
We
already.
did. It's number 1, though.
Oh, second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 93. Thank you, Mr. President. Shaking the dust off after a 3-day weekend. So basically, Mr. President, what this amendment does is it makes sure that House Bill 93 controls with regard to the Office of the State Engineer, the Board of Control budget. We want to make sure that we get that budget back onto the general file, and that's what this amendment does.
Further comments? Senator Landon.
Mr. President, thank you. And I can't remember back to all of the conversation on this, but it would be helpful to me to know just in general why this is important that we're pulling this back onto a general fund. As the last 5 or 6 years, we've worked pretty hard in this chamber to pull things off of the general fund, and that would help me to understand the amendment just a little bit better. So thank you.
Senator Hicks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I hope I can provide an explanation for that. So the Board of Control is the only constitutional mandated agency in your Constitution under Article 8 that established the Board of Control. And so since statehood, it's been funded on general fund. 2 times in our history, once in the early 1990s when the state was broke, they put it onto Water One. So they said, we're going to move you because we just don't have enough money, but we understand the importance of the Board of Control that regulates all the water distribution to all the entities within the state of Wyoming. And then again in 2016, Mr. President, you'll remember when we went no sell on Bighorn Basin crude and oil was $16 a barrel, and we went through a pretty dire budget cutting scenario. We put them back on Water One at that point in time. So twice in the history of the state, we've had Board of Control on Water One, but historically, for most of the history of the state of Wyoming, and particularly in times when we have billion-dollar surpluses, it seems like it's appropriate to put that agency back on the general fund where they have spent most all of their entire time since we adopted our Constitution in 1890, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President.
Thank you. Further questions? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to ask that one of the proponents walk through the implications. We've got a couple of different points of discussion here, referencing the House bill and Senate File 96 with some if clauses on how this would play out. And so it's still a little confusing to me what this particular amendment is doing. We're putting it in the water bill, and I think we're trying to override anything to the contrary that would be in either 96 or the budget bill. But I'd like a little more explanation and understanding of why I want to support this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Grew.
Just, thank you, Mr. President. Just to amplify on that, I thought with the two standing committee amendments, one from the Appropriations Committee and one from the committee itself, that we did this. And so I too am trying to, it just surprised me because it just seems to be a mirror of those two. So I'm just trying to figure that out. Thanks, Mr. President.
Senator Steinmetz, for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. All this does is it says that this bill will control, because we have 3 bills dealing with the same thing. And so it's kind of like what we did with the ARPA direct money in House Bill 118. I don't know if I can reference that. I would ask for your indulgence, because that's where we've done it before. When there are different bills floating around out there, we're just trying to identify which one controls.
Thank you. Involves money, it'll be a roll call vote. She's sponsor spoken twice. Roll call. Voting on amendment number 1 to House Bill 93, second reading.
Second reading amendment number 1, House Bill 53, roll call. Anderson? Aye. Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Aye. Barlow? No. Pipeman? Aye. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? No. Cooper? No. Dockstetter? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French? Aye. Murphy? No. Guru? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kinski? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Pappas? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz?
Aye.
Aye. President Driscoll?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed on the amendment. 23 aye, 8 no.
By your vote, second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 93 has passed the Senate. There is another amendment. Chief, clerk, read the amendment in, please.
House Bill 93, second reading amendment number 2 to engrossed copy, page 3 through 5, delete.
Senator Biden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move second reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 93 and ask for your favorable recommendation. This amendment comes to you from your newly minted Cloud Seeding Skeptic Caucus from last week. I just think it's a wise use of taxpayer money to go ahead and just save this $1.1 million that was going to go to cloud seeding, but we'll just go ahead and take it out of the water bill. There's good projects in that water bill, and I'd hate to have to vote against a water bill because of some cloud seeding projects. I'll stand for any questions.
Further discussion. Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm one of the members of that skeptic committee that he just referenced. I think that, you know, by the research that I've done, we're throwing good money after bad. There's a good article that I read over the weekend to kind of back up my claims last Thursday. It said that, you know, there's 8 states that are seeding clouds to overcome mega drought. You know, the subtitle of that is, but there's little evidence that the process is increasing precipitation. This is a pretty long article. It was a good article. There's a University of Wyoming guy named Jeff French, who's done a lot of study on this. But, you know, a little background, they started in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and, you know, did a lot of research on it back then, and nothing really came to light that it was really doing any good. So it sort of got tabled for a couple of decades. And you know, kind of the last punch on this thing is, you know, in 2015, there was an extensive study done by the Bureau of Reclamation that concluded that continued research is still warranted, but it noted, quote, the proof the scientific community has been seeking for many decades is still not at hand. So thank you, Mr. President. On and for the amendment.
Further debate. Further debate. Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess the good chairman of Agriculture referenced a document that was provided to us. So I guess I'd like to understand the context of the study that this legislature authorized or required or requested, and whether we need to fund this, these continuing projects to have the study. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hicks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'll take a stab at that. So anytime you do a study, the more data points you have, the more accuracy you gain. It's just a statistical analysis. So the idea that if we collect another couple of data points, hopefully they would be able to give us better information, to have a larger set of data, to get rid of variation within that data. So that would be helpful. Is it absolutely essential? I don't know. It would help resolve the issue of again, I think, Mr. Chairman, we know that there is some effectiveness to cloud seeding. In my own mind, I still come back and say, is it cost efficient? And so I'm neither going to speak for or against the amendment on this, but it is going to be difficult for us to underline because we have agreements. If you look at it, we're only putting in about 37%. So we have agreements with other basin states and other water users and the Bureau of Reclamation on the program in the Wind River Basin that we use. So those agreements are in place. We pay about 37% of that. The other states pay into that program for that cloud seeding. Similarly, on the North Platte, you know, we have agreements with some private entities. I believe this municipality that we're in here pays part of the program into there. So, Mr. Chairman, neither speaking for, but more data is better data. I will tell you, based on all of my review of the literature, it works if it's done at exactly the right time under the exact right events. It all comes down to what the amount of water is and what you're paying for it. And I'm not convinced myself that it's extremely cost efficient, but I think we probably ought to let this play out. If we want to do this, I would suggest that we sunset this program and maybe bring back a third reading amendment and sunset it until we have that study completed. I think that is a very legitimate way to handle this issue, but given all the existing agreements we have, I think it would be very difficult to unwind this at this point in time. I do think we should sunset this program until we get that information, Mr. President.
There's another thought.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against the amendment, the good senator who just spoke indicated that the city you're currently in utilizes some funds regarding some of this technology. You know, my understanding generally, and I'm no expert on this certainly, but is that it's the science associated with it for remedying drought circumstances, I think is still being determined and still under review. You may not know, or you may know that currently right now you're in the hail capital of America in a belt. And so this city experiences extreme weather events associated with hail and hail damage. So who do we trust for some of that data and their efforts on that? Insurance companies, right? Because this affects their bottom line. They certainly support the effort and the science associated with cloud seeding that affects the damaging effects of hail. It doesn't eliminate hail, but it makes the hail size smaller from this technology. It's really important. You don't want to get rid of the hail, because when we've attempted to do that with cloud seeding, you have an unintended consequence of it coming down as rain and having actually floods, or too much precipitation coming down at once. And so it is a way to try to finesse the impact of the storm damage from the size of the hail to smaller hail to eliminate crop damage and property damage that we're all very familiar with here in this part of the state. So just speaking about some knowledge I know from living in this area concerning the science behind cloud seeding, that there certainly seems to be some support for its efficacy. And if you have doubts about that, you can ask the property insurers.
Senator Hicks, your second.
Mr. Chairman, just a little more background on the program. So the program is designed to increase snowpack. And so we use both aerial seeding through airplanes, and we do also ground-based, and particularly in the Wind River Basin is mostly ground-based, and the Laramie Range and the Sierra Madres. Most of those are timed based on atmospheric events, but the only time that we seed clouds right now with the idea it's supposed to be a snowpack augmentation is during those winter events. And this is part of the issue with cloud seeding. You have to have just the perfect scenario. You have to have a certain level of moisture, a certain level of temperature. You have to be able to predict where that's going. All that's built into the science, but right now the programs that we operate are only during the winter time, during snowstorm related events. Back to my earlier comments, when you have a lot of seedable events, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and one storm rolling in after another with the right temperatures, it works. It all comes down to, you get into a drought scenario, you just don't see the gain that you would under those type of events. So again, neither speaking for, but the programs that we currently operate are only operated during the winter time, Mr. Chairman, to increase snowpack.
Senator Dockstader.
Thank you. During my time on water, I heard about these programs. We were told the science was there. But my concern was, it seemed like it was all kind of kept quiet, especially out on the west side when they're going to do this. And yeah, it affects people's lives. It affects our farmers and so forth, and everyone else involved. It affects recreation. My concern was, why weren't they more open about their cloud seeding programs across the state, where they're going to do it and when?
Further discussion. Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in the course of this discussion, it seems like we're only talking about ones with the state of Wyoming, maybe. So my question is, does somebody have evidence or know that there are other entities, including maybe those property casualty folks or someone else, who's actually doing this privately, funding cloud seeding in the state of Wyoming? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to say that industry depends on this also at some level. I think it's clear that cloud seeding does work. You know, the question is economically, is it worth the economics, that the cost involved? But it does work. And my side of the state, our industry basically backs anything that's going to try to help the water situation in the Colorado River water basin, the upper and the lower, because it affects everybody. So I think clearly it does work. I do always look forward to more information because obviously there's a lack of it. But I think anything we can do to help out our industries in this state, I mean, our money doesn't come from ranching. It comes from industry. And we have to back those folks up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion. Senator Hicks for your second time.
Yeah.
Might be your third, but.
Oh, go ahead.
Senator Steinmetz, I think you've talked twice, correct, Senator Hicks? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Steinmetz.
President. And to the question on private cloud seeding, I don't know about that. I can get back to you on that. But to the previous question, where was the planning study funded, or where was the study funded? And it was in the planning bill last year. So with water development funds, that study has been funded, and that's what they're looking at. To bring us home, there is some evidence that it does work. Like I said, the study is going to tell us how cost effective it is for what we're receiving. As you've heard before from the numbers, we have a small percentage in the share of paying for this cloud seeding. A lot of the lower basin states are paying the bulk of the program. So with that, Mr. President, I'd call for the question.
Any further? Senator Beitman for your second and last time.
Thank you. For my second time, I'll bring it home. Good discussion. It sounds like the science is not settled because we've heard opposite studies quoted here. So with that being said, you know, it was a good point brought up about if this really truly did work and it was a no-brainer, the private sector would be falling all over themselves to do this, and it would increase rainfall and they'd be doing it themselves. The fact that we rely on other people's money to do something where the science is a little sketch, probably a good sign that it's not there yet. And I think this is an opportunity for us to take a step back, save some money, and focus on these water projects that are truly important for the state. So on and for the amendment.
Thank you. Question being called. We're voting on second reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 93. It'll be a roll call vote.
Second reading amendment number 2. Roll call, Anderson? No. Baldwin? No. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner? No. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? No. Case? Aye. Cooper? No. Dockstetter? No. Ellis? Aye. French? No. Furphy? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? No. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? No. Kinski? No. Cole? No. Landon? No. Larson? No. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Pappas? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? No. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. President Driscoll?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Second reading amendment number 2, 13 aye, 18 no.
By your vote, second reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 93 has failed to pass the Senate. We're back on the bill. House Bill 93 having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be heard a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 147, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 147 engrossed. Unlawful trespass signage, taking of wildlife.
House Bill 147 had been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 160, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 160 engrossed. Driver's license, veterans designation, replacing DD Form 214.
House Bill 160 having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 2, Senator Hicks.
Absent any objection, I would request that House Bill 213 be laid back for 1 day.
Without objection, so ordered. Bills on third reading, final passage. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, do you have a consent list?
Mr. President, I do have a consent list. I move House Bill number 9, Juvenile Courts Concurrent Jurisdiction Clarification. House Bill 13, Office of Guardian Ad Litem Program References. House Bill 14, Civil Case Filing Fees Amendments. House Bill 18, Tribal Relations Missing Persons Alert System. House Bill 19, State Indian Child Welfare Act Task Force. House Bill 20, Land Exchange Notice. House Bill 26, School Facilities Appropriations. House Bill 61, Source Materials Associated with Mining Agreement. House Bill 70, Definition of Home-Based Educational Program.
Would anybody like any of these bills removed? Senator Ellis?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that House Bill 19, State Indian Child Welfare Act Task Force, be laid back, or removed from the consent list.
Done. Anyone else? Thank you. Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the Senate? House Bill 9, Juvenile Courts, Concurrent Jurisdiction Clarification. House Bill 13, Office of Guardian Ad Litem, Program References. House Bill 14, Civil Case Filing Fees, Amendments. House Bill 18, Missing Person Alert Systems. House Bill 20, Land Exchanges, Notice. House Bill 26, School Facilities Appropriations. House Bill 61, Source Material Associated with Mining Agreement. House Bill 70, Definition of Home-Based Educational System. Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Roll call on the consent list. Anderson. Baldwin. Barlow. Beitman. Boner. Bouchard. Brennan. Case. Cooper. Dockstetter. Ellis. French. Furphy. Guru. Hicks. Hutchings. Ide. Jones. Kinsky. Cole. Landon. Larson. McEwen. Nethercott. Pappas. Rothfuss. Salazar. Schuler. Scott. Steinmetz. President Driscoll.
Aye.
On the consent list, 31 aye. House Bill 9, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 9, 31 aye. House Bill 13, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 13, 31 aye. House Bill 14, are there? House Bill 14, are there any changes? Bouchard, aye to no. McEwen, aye to no. Ide, aye to no. Salazar, no. Beitman, no. Larson, no. Cole, no. French, no. Closing vote. Hutchings, aye to no. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 14, 22 aye, 9 no.
Folks, we're going to redo roll call on 14. The computer did not save the vote, so she's going to redo the roll call again on 14. So this will be third reading on Senate File 14 on the consent list.
So any changes to 14, would you please stand again? Hutchings, no. McEwen, no. Bouchard, no. Kolb, no. Ide, no. French, no. Salazar, no. Whitman, no. Scott, no. And Larson, no. That was a different. Okay. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 14 is 21 aye, 10 no. House Bill 18, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 18, 31 aye. House Bill 20, are there any changes? Ellis, no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 20, 30 aye, 1 no. House Bill 26, are there any changes? Bouchard? Aye to no. McEwen? Aye to no. Ide? Aye to no. Salazar? Aye to no. Whitman? No. Hutchings? No. French? No. Larson? No. Kolb? Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 26, 22 aye, 9 no. House Bill 61, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 61, 31 aye. And House Bill 70, are there any changes? Rothfuss? Aye to no. Cooper? Aye to no. Case? Aye to no. Guru? Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 70, 27 aye, 4 no.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 9, Juvenile Courts Concurrent Jurisdiction Clarification, House Bill 13, Office of Guardian Ad Litem Program References, House Bill 14, Civil Case Filing Fees Amendments, House Bill 18, Missing Person Alert Systems, House Bill 20, Land Exchanges Notice, House Bill 26, School Facilities Appropriations, House Bill 61, Source Material Associated with Mining Agreement, and House Bill 70, Definition of Home-Based Educational Program, have passed the Senate. Bills on third reading. House Bill 16, third reading of the House bill.
House Bill 16 engrossed state land leasing improvements, sponsored by the Agriculture Committee, an act relating to state lands.
There is an amendment. We have the amendment read in, please.
House Bill 16, third reading amendment number 1 to engrossed copy, page 4, line 2, delete.
Senator Steinmetz.
Mr. President, I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 16 and ask for your favorable consideration. This is an amendment brought to us by the department who is in charge of the state lands and investments, the Office of State Lands and Investments, and they're in charge of determining the market value of the improvements on the state leased lands. So they just wanted to update this to consider it depreciated market value. This has a definition, the replacement value of the lessee's improvement at the time of transition of the lease, after the useful life of the improvement is considered. The staff can readily determine the replacement cost of an improvement and can readily determine the useful life and can readily determine the age and condition of the improvement. Thus, they can determine depreciated market value of an improvement. So that is the amendment, and that is the reason for that. We're just defining depreciated market value. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further questions? Further questions? Senator Beitman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the way it's currently written sounds better. The current market value is easier. Why wouldn't we just stick with that? And it sounds like our good folks who lobby for the farmers would support keeping it the way it is. A little bit more discussion on why the change. Thank you.
Further discussion, Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question about the depreciation, what the depreciation schedule would be, and maybe there is something elsewhere in statute that provides for some guidance on that, but discussing it as a depreciated asset, I guess I'm a little curious how that would be done. Is this consistent with their federal filings on a depreciation schedule, or do we have our own internal structure for depreciation? How would we determine that for this type of property? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess we assume that some of these assets actually depreciate. If I built a fence 9 years ago, and now I no longer have a lease, I think these leases are all 10 years, the value of that fence 9 years ago, if it were to be replaced, would be more than it is right now, just in the cost of materials. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I would suggest that, what if there is no depreciated? What if actually the value of the asset is greater? Then we don't get anything as a lessee. I guess depreciated assumes it goes down. Market means it's worth what it's worth at the time of the exchange. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hyde. Senator Rothfuss, would you come?
Thank you, Mr. President. I like things simple, and when you throw in depreciated market value, that throws in a whole nother discussion. I think at the time, you know, that you're valuing that improvement, the market value effectively has its depreciated value in it, or like the good senator from Campbell County said, that it might be worth more than what it was at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ide. Let's go to Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, and first I'll note that I did declare and will continue to declare a conflict of interest on this bill. The effect of this is a bit uncertain. There is a federal depreciation mechanism schedule that would apply for federal income tax purposes, but that is not necessarily what you would use for other purposes. So we're leaving, I guess, with this language up to the department to say what the depreciation schedule will be. And using the depreciation schedule, because of the appreciation, and because, for example, we built a corral, I think maybe on the state land. We used oil field pipe that was cheap when we bought it, but has since greatly appreciated in value. The thing is, replacement value is worth a lot more than it is as a depreciation value, which one of the reasons, Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict in this bill. This amendment is designed to make it easier for them to move leases. And I think that's the purpose behind it. I don't think it makes life simpler. It makes it easier if you want to switch who's got the state leases, which is a fairly large policy change. But, Mr. President, take my comments for what they're worth, because I do have a conflict.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Mr. President, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually think the argument's gone kind of counter to what's actually out there. It's interesting. I'm asking you to read the language really close. What it does, everybody's looking at depreciate market value, and they're jumping to that's what it is. And then you read what's after that. Means, and that's what we're doing, we're defining it in this, means the replacement value of the lessee's improvement at the time of transition of the lease after the useful life of the improvement is considered. So useful life on a fence, as a good senator from Campbell County talked about, a fence that's built in 1930 might still be worth 50 times what it was in 1930 when it comes. If it's still in good repair and it's still there, it's going to bring big value. Those pipe corrals we talked about, they're probably higher. So I actually really like it. I'm going to declare conflict because I've been there. I've actually applied for these leases, and the way they work, if you're applying for one of the leases, in the past, you've had to present a cash bond, not a promise, but you actually had to go write a check to the state that they cashed. And if those improvements, in your opinion, were $40,000, you wrote a check for $40,000, and then they went and looked at them, and the neighbor could challenge it or the person could challenge it. And then you had to write another check for another $60,000, and they cashed it. And when you're through the whole process, if you did not get the lease, they gave you your money back with no interest payment on it. And if you did get it, then that was the value that was the starting value on your lease. And this one I think is really fair. It says, you know, and there's actually, you can do it. It says replacement value at the time of transition. And that's pretty easy to figure out. You can go get a bid, you can let them do it. But if a set of corrals that cost $10,000 to build in 1950 costs $100,000 today, it's pretty easy to use that replacement value. And I think this amendment's a good one. I will vote on the amendment and declare a conflict on the bill, but I do think this amendment is helpful for both the State Land Office and for someone that's either exiting a lease or having one challenged. Either way, I think it gives the most honest, fair assessment you may get. Thank you.
Thank you, President Driscoll. For the discussion, any further discussion? Back to you, Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, the definition of depreciated market value is the replacement value of the lessee's improvement at the time of the transition of the lease. So they're going to determine the useful value, and it's called depreciated market value, and they use nationally recognized standards for determining the useful life of an asset, which determines this value. So it just makes it easier for our appraisers to do the right thing by the lessee and the person acquiring the lease. So with that, I'd call for the question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Question I'm being called. This is no money, so this is a voice vote. You're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 163. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Amendment is passed. Third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 163 has passed the Senate. We're back on the bill. Oh, 116, I did 163. Why did I do that? Let me go back. We're gonna have to vote again because I blew it. I pulled up 163. I didn't even, why does it say 163 on mine? Oh, it's 16. 163 is what it is, state land bill, but I don't have the bill in my Hang on, 16. Why does this say, oh, 16? Okay, I'm gonna have to redo the vote, folks. I called it wrong. I read the amendment wrong. We're going to do a voice vote again on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 16. It has an S by it, so I misread it. So it is actually House Bill 16, third reading amendment number 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. You have passed third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 16. We're back on the bill. House Bill 16 having been read. Roll call on House Bill 16. I don't have my script here.
House Bill 16, third reading roll call. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Aye. Cooper?
Aye.
Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French? Aye. Furphy? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kinsky? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Conflict? Steinmetz?
Aye.
Aye. President Driscoll?
Conflict.
Conflict. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 16, 29 aye, 2 conflict.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 16, State Land Leasing Improvements, has passed the Senate. House Bill 19, third reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 19, State Indian Child Welfare Act Task Force, sponsored by Tribal Relations, an act relating to children.
Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that House Bill 19, State Indian Child Welfare Act Task Force be laid back one day.
Without objection, so ordered. House Bill 47, third reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 47, Election Equipment Federal Certification, sponsored by the Corporations Committee, an act relating to elections.
There is an amendment. We have the amendment read in.
House Bill 47, third reading amendment number 1 to engrossed copy, corrected copy, delete.
Senator Beitman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 47 and ask for your aye vote. Sorry, I messed up this amendment on Thursday. That's why I laid the bill back so I could fix it today. What it does is we'll delete the standing committee amendment except for the, if you go to page 7, lines 11 and 12, it will still delete the Romanet 8, which is failure to comply with any other rule of the Secretary of State. That one sounds a little arbitrary. The things we're putting back in would just reinserts language that conforms with Secretary of State's existing election procedures for certification of voting equipment. Stand for any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Senator Case.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I would ask that we resist this amendment. Mr. President, we thought about this a lot when in committee when we discussed it, and we talked about it on the floor. You know, our elections are very important. We all agree on that. And our equipment is working very well, Mr. President, and we've never had a problem. What the proposed language that was deleted by the standing committee amendment would do would allow one person to throw into question all of these pieces of equipment in the state. We could think of the chaos that could ensue if that power were used irresponsibly. And you know, there were a lot of allegations about our last election, Mr. President, none of which bore out for Wyoming, none of which bore out for this equipment. And it is unfathomable to me that we would allow one individual to be able to throw our election into chaos by questioning this equipment with really no grounds whatsoever. With that removed from this bill, it's a good bill. It's a nice balance. It takes account of what current practice is, and it ensures the integrity of our elections. With this in the bill, I'm going to be very frank, Mr. President. We should kill this bill if this amendment restores that language, because this bill will not be doing any service to the people of Wyoming and could throw our elections in chaos. You've got the best clerks in the country. We're a small state with 23 very vivid and dogged election watchers. They're doing a good job. The equipment meets the highest standards. To be able to open the door to the possibility of chaos at the last moment because one individual may incorrectly believe something about the election is just wrong. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to speak to you on behalf of 23% of the clerks in the state of Wyoming. That's the ones in my district. I share these clerks with four other senators in here. Those 23% of the clerks hold well over 100 years experience in this election field, and they've not got it wrong yet. I spoke to every one of them over the weekend, and they were adamant that the bill as it stands is exactly where they want it. They felt that this amendment hurts the bill, and they were to a point that if the amendment passes, they felt the bill should possibly fail. So they want the bill, they like the bill as it is, they don't like the amendment. Thank you very much.
Senator Pops.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against this amendment. I too spoke to my county clerk over the weekend and discussed the ramifications of this particular legislation, this particular amendment. And I cannot support it. If this amendment goes through, I'll certainly be a no vote on the bill. And unfortunately, I think the bill, as was mentioned, has some balance and something that the clerks can agree with. I don't need, again, I think this is, we're looking for a problem to solve, okay? We don't have that problem here in Wyoming, never have. And all the 4 years I spent on corporations, on that great committee, does great work. We looked at all sorts of things that, we looked at all the election equipment and especially the new stuff that we've purchased. And I'm very, very comfortable in the election integrity and the processes we have for our equipment here in Wyoming. So on and against this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion. Further discussion. Senator Biden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, on and for the amendment, I think this is going to be a codification of current rules. Why would we leave out two of the current rules? We don't like the particular Secretary of State. Okay, we get that. We don't trust him. I get that. But these are current rules. These have never been violated before, or they've never been gone rogue before. I think it's kind of a fear tactic there. It's an important vote. I'll call for the ayes and noes, and I encourage you to pass this amendment. If not, I'll take the flip side of the people who are opposed to this amendment and say, if this doesn't pass, then I would urge you to kill the bill. So, thank you, Mr. President.
As no's been called for, it'll be a roll call. We're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 47.
Third reading amendment number 1, roll call. Anderson? No. Baldwin? No. Barlow? No. Whitman? Aye. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? No. Cooper? No. Dockstetter? No. Ellis? No. French? Aye. Furphy? No. Guru? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? No. Kinsky? No. Cole? No. Landon? No. Larson? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Pappas? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? No. Scott? No. Steinmetz? Aye. President Driscoll?
No.
No. Closing vote? Closing. Vote closed. On the amendment, 12 aye, 19 no.
By your vote, third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 47 has failed the Senate. We have another amendment. Reading clerk, read the amendment in, please.
House Bill 47, third reading amendment number 2 to engross copy, page 6, lines 10 through 15, delete.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 47 and ask for the body's favorable consideration. Mr. President, very similar to the previous discussion, the significant difference here is that instead of leaving this decision solely up to one person, you'd have the entire state canvassing board, the 5 statewide elected officials making this decision. I hope that this alleviates some of the concern that we heard about having too much power vested in a single individual. But I still think that the rule is there for a reason, as we previously discussed. It's important that we stay true to the original intent of the bill as it came over to us, but also I think acknowledge the concerns that we heard previously. I hope you can support this amendment so we can find a nice landing spot for this very important piece of legislation. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is better. It gets things out of the role of one person, but I do have questions about how it could actually work and how the state canvassing board would actually operate to call into question our election equipment. I have a hard time imagining that happening, and it would be kind of after the fact rather than, I mean, the canvassing board is conveyed after the fact, so I have a hard time understanding how it could fix anything, because it would be done on over. So I would ask that we resist this amendment, Mr. President. It's trying to reinstate that standing committee amendment, as well as change it to be the canvassing board. And I think that piece is an improvement, getting it out of one person, but I don't think it's enough of an improvement, and I'd ask that you resist it.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Senator Landon.
Mr. President, thank you. On and against the amendment, you know, one thing that's been difficult these last couple of years, we seem to have trouble resisting this effort to be more centralized and more Cheyenne-oriented. And I just wanted to take us up to that 30,000-foot view. There are 23 clerks out there, and like my friends in the body, I reached out to 3 of them over the weekend. You know, they've got this. A lot of this stuff that's come up is really was not even a problem. I have a problem with this amendment because of the logistics that the chairman of corporations just pointed out. I think we resist this one. I think the bill is in good shape as it came here to the chamber. On and against the amendment.
Thank you. Further discussion? Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a personal privilege?
Yes.
Senator, just a request. I've made this in the past. We've used the parlance of decisions that came out of Cheyenne. I think that implies that somehow our Cheyenne city government is, you know, heavy-handedly doing things across the state. I would just ask that when we're talking about decisions that come out of this body, this chamber, that they're state decisions. We happen to be in Cheyenne, but just to avoid the confusion out there of saying that Cheyenne somehow is in charge of all these.
The
I'd ask
record
that.
on third reading, it's a big city in southern Wyoming. Senator Scott.
Mr. President, just to simple question of fact for the sponsor when, second time. Am I right in thinking the canvassing board is all 5 elected officials, or is it only some of them?
Mr. Scott, thank you. Further discussion for the sponsor rises for a second time. Further discussion? Senator Boner, Senator Hicks, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Boner for your second time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I stand corrected. I believe it's 4 of the 5 statewide elected officials. Superintendent, I believe, is not on it. So, but either way, the objective is still the same. Now, as we all know, I completely agree that our elections are secure and accurate, but we have to make sure that we consider any future possibilities that may exist. As far as the procedures of how this would work, I mean, I don't envision this idea that somehow that we're going to try and undo the election results using this procedure. I don't think that's a likelihood in any circumstance. This would be something that where when the canvassing board, if there's questions that get filtered up from the county level, that then they could go ahead and ask for that recertification. That's simply a request that happens at this point. So I think procedurally it works just fine. I think we've kind of focused on one potential possibility at the expense of thinking about what this amendment and what this bill would actually do. So I'd ask us just to read the words on the paper and think about how this process would play out. I think the amendment works perfectly fine from a technical point. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you. Question being called. We're voting on third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 47. This will be
Ayes, nays.
Ayes and nays have been called for. We're back to a roll call. Ellen, we're putting you through the task today, even on the fun ones. Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Roll call, third reading amendment number 2. Anderson? No. Baldwin? No. Barlow? No. Beitman? No. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? No. Brennan? Aye. Case? No. Cooper? No. Dockstetter? No. Ellis? No. French? No. Furphy? No. Guru? No. Hicks? No. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? No. Jones? No. Kinski? No. Cole? Aye. Landon? No. Larson? No. McEwen? No. Nethercott? No. Pappas? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? No. Schuler? No. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. President Driscoll?
No.
No. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Third reading amendment number 2, 5 aye, 26 no.
By your vote, third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 47 has failed to pass the Senate. We're back on the bill. Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, Senator Beitman, I'm sorry. My apologies.
No worries. Just wanted to be on the record as now I'm against the bill. It's a no vote on this bill. Seeing this trend of stripping duties of one of the top 5 electeds just because we don't like their politics is a bad look for the state of Wyoming. It's happened before, and it's happening again. And it's just wrong. It's flat wrong. We got to resist this. Go ahead and kill this bill. We'll come back next year and we'll try to get it something it's a little more palatable. But right now, I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
For you. Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. President. That is an absolute mischaracterization of this bill draft. Absolute mischaracterization. This bill does nothing of the sort. In fact, was asked for by the office to the committee in the interim, which codifies rules associated with the certification of election equipment. It is supported by the 23 county clerks and has nothing to do with any other worrying conversations that may be happening in the back rooms. It's a legitimate bill asked for by the office in the interim and supported by your 23 county clerks.
Senator Landon.
Mr. President, just to add to the previous statement, I sit on the Corporations Committee, and when we took up this bill, I frankly couldn't care less who sits in the Secretary of State's office. I'm going to side with the 23 county clerks every single time. One of the things, Mr. President, that I campaigned on was to try to support our local governments. We elect county clerks, they know what they're doing. They've got hundreds of years of experience out across this state. This whole idea that we need to centralize things, we've got to look in the mirror, Mr. President. We've got people out there who have this. And the idea that this is some kind of a vendetta against one individual is ridiculous. And I kind of stand a little bit offended on that front. This is a good policy choice. This is a good bill. I'm going to vote for it.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I got to speak again for my 5 county clerks. I've got so much respect for those people. If another senator has problems in his county, that's his issue to fix at home. But the people that asked for this bill, that are doing it, that are supporting it, are some of the best and the very best in the state. I feel like the comments made were direct offense to those people, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Senator Biden for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I meant no offense with my comments, but we heard during the debate on the First Amendment that we were worried about a rogue Secretary of State, somebody abusing their power. And we're talking about codification of current rules that are already on the books within their office. To me, that's just, it says right there without saying it that they're afraid of this one particular person and not the office in general. So I meant no ill comments towards anybody. I'm just restating what was said before. So I apologize if it was taken the wrong way, but I'll again stand by my statement that it's bad policy to look at. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Your statement is taken very well. I appreciate that very much. Senator Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, I stand here to say that this has nothing to do with a person. This has to do with what the bill title is, Election Equipment Federal Certification. That's it. It's not about a person. It's about a policy. Not against anyone. Anyone who's elected is elected. This is merely policy. That's all it is. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further comments? Further comments? Question being called. Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall House Bill 47, Election Equipment Federal Certification, pass the Senate? Chief Clerk will call the roll.
House Bill 47, third reading roll call. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? No. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? No. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper? Aye. Dockstader? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French? No. Furphy? Aye. Garou? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Kinski? Aye. Cole?
Aye.
Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? No. McEwen? No. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? No. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Driscoll?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 47, 24 aye, 7 no.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 47, Election Equipment Federal Certification, has passed the Senate. House Bill 104, third reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 104 engrossed, Hunting of Predatory Animals Amendments, sponsored by Representative Haraldson, an act relating to game and fish.
Senator Landon.
Mr. President, thank you. I have a few comments on House Bill 104, but may I have privilege of the floor first?
You may.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that I apologize for wandering off the side of the road a little bit. The senator from Laramie County is exactly right. I think the world of this town, and just because we're here doesn't mean that the city itself has anything to do with what we do. So my apologies to the body on that. Mr. President, I ask that this bill be laid back, House Bill 104, because one of our principal law enforcement partners, frankly, because of injury, had not had an opportunity to really work this bill with us. And I saw no problem with laying the bill back so that we could take some time, take a good look at it. And the wardens who do the work out across the state have come to the notion that this parallels a couple of our other statutes adequately. And that's what we were trying to do, is to make sure that the enforcement piece of the bill was in line with what we've done on a couple of other fronts. They are comfortable that it does that. This is a bill that creates a little more activity out across the state, late in the evening and early in the morning. And so I thought it was good that we get that right. And I'm glad to report that the bill is in a good spot. And so I commend it to you and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Further comments? Sensing none. Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall House Bill 104, Hunting of Predatory Animals Amendments, pass the Senate? The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
House Bill 104, third reading roll call. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner? Aye. Bouchard? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? No. Cooper? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French? Aye. Furphy? Aye. Guru? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kinski? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? No. Steinmetz? Aye. President Driscoll?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 104, 27 aye, 4 no.
Having received the affirmative vote of majority of members elected to the Senate, House Bill 104, Hunting of Predatory Animals Amendments, has passed the Senate. Senator Hicks, Majority Floor Leader Hicks, excuse me.
Mr. President, I move that we stand in recess until 2 p.m.
Thank you. Are there any announcements? Senator Case.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I get my mouse to work. I'm doing pretty good on the paperless stuff, you guys, but hold on. I lost my little guy. Why don't you go to the next person?
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs Committee will meet today upon adjournment in the Capitol Extension Room W2 and online. Consider House Bill 44, Road and Bridge Construction, Alternative Contracting, House Bill 239, Vehicle Idling, Decriminalization, House Bill 154, Permanent Vehicle Registration.
Senator Case.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. Your committee number 7, corporations, will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in our usual room W110 and online. We're going to hear House Bill 142 engrossed, notice of annexation, House Bill 73 engrossed, annexation vote requirement, House Bill 106, eminent domain wind energy collector systems, and House Bill 134 engrossed, alcohol sales to licensees. Thank you very much, Mr. President. 8 a.m.
Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee number 5, Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources Committee, will meet tomorrow, February 14th, Valentine's Day, in room 2 and online to consider House Bill 22, State Land Lease Deficiencies and Cure Process, which was held over from our last meeting. House Bill 17, State Lands Grazing of Non-Owned Livestock. House Bill 180, Brucellosis Testing Notification Requirements. And House Bill 188, Wolf Depredation and Compensation if time permits.
Senator Schuler.
Whoops, I jumped the gun. Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Committee Number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources will meet tomorrow morning at 8:00 a.m. In room W2 and online. We will hear House Bill 83, Tribal Agreements to Hunt and Fish, and House Bill 99, Property Tax Refund Program.
Your doctor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee number 9, Minerals, will meet upon the noon recess in room number 4 to hear House Bill 190, Wyoming Value Added Energy and Industrial Plan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Majority Floor Leader Hicks.
Mr. President, I rescind my motion to stand recessed until 2 p.m. We need to get some House bills read in so we can have something to do in Committee of the Whole this afternoon.
Thank you. Okay, we're with reluctance, we'll accept that. So, Chief, reports from the House. Senate, excuse me.
Standing Committee Report, February 9, 2023. Mr. President, your Committee Number 5, Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources, to whom is referred House Bill 21, State Lands, Use of Land Qualification Requirements, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes, Senators French, Hicks, Ide, Kolb, and Steinmetz. Senator Steinmetz, Chair. February 13, 2023, Mr. President, Committee Number 10, Labor, Health, and Social Services, to whom is referred House Bill 65, engrossed 988, Suicide Prevention. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation it do pass. Ayes, Senators Baldwin, Barlow, and Dockstader. No, Senators Bouchard and Hutchings. Senator Baldwin, Chairman. Mr. President, Committee Number 10, Labor, Health, and Social Services, to whom was referred House Bill 81, engrossed Hospital Supplemental Payments Statutory Fix. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Baldwin, Barlow, Dockstader, and Hutchings. No, Senator Bouchard. Senator Baldwin, Chairman. Mr. President, Committee Number 1, Judiciary, to whom was referred House Bill 145, Disclosure of Sensitive Information, Law Enforcement. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Case, Cooper, Furphy, Landon, and Schuler. Senator Landon, Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Without objection, I would request that House Bill 81, Hospital Supplement Payments Statutory Fix, be re-referred to appropriations.
Without objection, so done. Going to take a motion from the Majority Floor Leader in a minute. Folks, I wanted to thank all of you for standing up and you talk your heart out and doing your, Senator Beitman, Senator Landon, Ellis, stand up and speak your heart and do it well. This is why we're shining on this side, folks. You guys are doing a phenomenal job of saying when something bothers you and standing up and being big about it. And it means a lot to me sitting up here. So thank you, Senator, Majority Floor Leader Hicks.
Mr. President, I move that we stand recessed until 2 p.m.
Heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Senate stands recessed until 2 p.m.